Hi, welcome back to Wallflowers. So today I was just pottering around the house and I was thinking about frugality. I was looking for things to identify what I do personally that's classed as frugal. And because I've tightened my belt for so long now, way before prepping, it's hard really to look at things and automatically identify that that's me being frugal compared to not being frugal because it's just become second nature really. So I've written a rough list of things that I identify as my frugal habits. And I'd like if you've got any of your own that I haven't mentioned here today to put them in the comments and maybe I can learn something from you as well. And that's part of this growing community that we all have tips and hints and guides of how we can do different things. But it was just curiosity for me today is how frugal am I? So just start off at the top of the list. The first thing that came into my mind was composting. Um, so I have 13 raised beds in the back garden, which is my garden allotment. And for me to top that up every spring would cost me a fortune buying in shop bought compost. So I have three different compost bins, two your regular black open topped ones, and sorry, no, four, and two of the green wheelie bins that I've drilled holes underneath for drainage, and I use them. So I have four compost bins that I make compost for spring to top up all the beds. And sometimes even after that, I do have to buy in a couple, but not nearly as much as I would have if I didn't make my own compost. So how I make that compost is I put any green waste in, kitchen waste, whether that's eggshells, tea bags, vegetable peelings, stalks of vegetables that I don't use. And in between I put brown layers, paper, cardboard. I don't put plastic coated paper in, just anything that's real paper, real cardboard. And then when I'm tidying up the garden, I add green and brown waste from the twiggery, the leaves are brown waste. Some of the twigs are, if they're completely dead, they're brown waste, some of them are green. So you have to do green waste, brown waste, green waste, brown waste, but you also have to remember in the warmer days, you do have to water the compost and then the microbes and everything else eating away and breaking it all down, which leaves you luscious, nice soil. So any inside of the toilet rolls, any leaflets that come through the door, any envelopes from post, I'll rip the plastic window out of it, dispose of that in the recycling, and I'll rip the envelope up and put that in. Any letters that I no longer wish to keep, I'll rip them up, add them in. So I build it up. So every bit of free newspapers. I don't actually purchase newspapers, so any paper that I don't want cluttering in the house, I'll go in the compost, and that helps me make new compost for the following year. Um, I do hold back some of the peelings from the vegetable peelings, and I store them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. And when it gets to a certain amount, I'll boil it up and make my own vegetable stock, and then I can can that and put it on the pantry shelf. So although I do have stock cubes, which I like to use for different things because the stock that I make isn't sufficient amount to keep up with the amount of cooking I do. I do in between not waste those peelings and make some stock, and it's beautiful. Um, Clothes. So for some reason, some people feel that they have to change their clothing every day, regardless of whether they've been sweaty, regardless of the clothes being dirty, just the mere fact that they've worn them for a day and they feel they have to wash them. A lot of the time inside the house, I'll be in my pajamas. And if I'm leaving the house for any reason at all, I'll get dressed, put my going out clothes on, and I'll go wherever I go. But 10, 15 minutes after I've been in, I'll change back into my pajamas because it's comfortable and I prefer to be in pajamas around the house. Um, but still, I'll wear those pajamas for 2 to 3 days. Now, to some, they might say, "Oh, your hygiene standards are quite slack." I don't think so. My pajamas aren't getting dirty. I'm not out rolling in the mud. I'm not out doing dirty activities. I put my apron on whilst cooking and I protect myself that way. So 2 to 3 days, I think, is quite sufficient for washing those pajamas that I've worn around the house. The clothing that I've got dressed in, the day clothes to go out and about shopping, I've literally worn 3, possibly 4 hours. When I come home, I'll put them back on a hanger. Sometimes I'll wear them the next day if I'm going out again. Sometimes I'll wait for next time that I choose to wear that clothing. But on average, I probably wear that clothing 3, 4 times again, unless they're creased, I can re-iron them. Unless they get particularly dirty or I've had too many layers on and I've sweated, or it's been a hot day in the summer, they might get washed more frequently. But other than that, I'd wear them 3 to 4 days. Now, if you buy designer clothes, which I don't, but I'm fully aware some people spend £1,000, £2,000 on a pair of jeans or designer clothing. Now, the actual manufacturer designer would actually tell you there and then, do not wash that pair of jeans every time you wear them, because you're not only weakening the threads, absolutely everything about it. They're not designed to be washed every single day. They're not designed to be washed after one wear. So eat your clothing out. You're not only saving your detergent, you're not only saving your ironing if you iron, the electricity on your washing machine, but it's the energy consumption of doing all that action. Put it on a hanger, put it back in your wardrobe, and bring it out again. You can still break it up and wear something in between if you don't want to be seen in the same clothing 2 days on the trot, etc. Break it up. But clothes aren't designed to be washed after one wear. And I don't care who criticises me, that's what I do, and I've done it for a number of years. But also talking about detergents, the prices of detergents are like everything else going through the roof. Now, it is possible to make your own detergent. I have a video making detergent from English ivy, and basically it's just ivy in your garden or on your walkabout, and you take so many leaves, bring about 60 leaves, bring it home, boil it up with a litre of water, leave it to cool overnight, take the leaves out, and what you have remaining is detergent. And you can put that in your washing machine, you can wash by hand with it, and it'll fully clean your clothes. Unless, of course, it's mud splattered up, grass stains, whatever, that's a completely different issue. But it's a really good detergent. Other than the cost of boiling a pan, it's completely free. It's nature's gift. There are lots of other ways of making your homemade detergents. Now, I have borax at home. There's different rules within the UK of us being able to attain borax. And they made it illegal at one point for certain types of borax, but you can order it on the internet. And it is quite cheap, and you get quite a lot of it. And with that, bit of Castile soap, bacon, bicarbonated soda, you can actually make your own your own laundry detergent. And when you count that across how much you've got, it's a fraction of the price compared to what we're paying in the shops. I mean, I remember a while ago, for a brand name like Safe, it'd be £3.50 for a small bottle. I can imagine that's doubles, or if not a hell of a lot more now. I haven't looked because I'm not using it. Things like household disinfectants, cleaning agents. Buy a bottle of white vinegar, 40p or more for one bottle of white vinegar. Buy a package of bicarbonated soda, 2 teaspoons of white vinegar, 2 teaspoons of bicarbonated soda. Put it in a squirty bottle. You can clean any kitchen surfaces, your fridge, anything that you need to clean. You don't have to go out and buy all these new fandangled brand names that are costing us money, and then we're left with bottle after bottle after bottle because each one's saying it's just for this purpose. It's just for this purpose. That example I've just given you, the white vinegar and the bicarbonated soda, can be used on so many surfaces, and it's one product diluted down. You're only having 2 tablespoons of each. Clean everything. I mean, I clean the blinds with it. I take the strip off and I wipe them down by hand and I put the strips back. That cleans them. I clean all the kitchen surfaces. I clean down a wooden table with it. I clean down the furniture with it. I use it for an awful lot. Um, I do like bleach. I clean the kitchen sink with bleach. I do prefer it to be bleached. That's just one of my things. I'm not particular about the brand name of the bleach, but I do like the kitchen sink itself to be bleached, and I do like the toilet to be bleached, the toilet bowl itself, more importantly. But I do prefer for the toilet and the kitchen sink to be bleached. And for the rest of the bathroom, I'll literally just use washing up liquid, the cheapest brand washing up liquid, and I'll just put a squirt around the inside of the bath, and I'll just take a cloth and I'll clean it. It shines it up, it cleans it, and I'm more than happy with it. And I'll do that with the bathroom sink as well. So I'm already buying washing up liquid, so I'll use that as a cleaner. Sometimes I'll use that to clean the kitchen surfaces in the kitchen or different things in the kitchen, and I'm quite happy with using the washing up liquid. I'm not going out buying extra bottles of a specific item for a specific job. I've got stuff at home and I'm gonna use it because it's versatile. Um, Ziploc bags. I use Ziploc bags to store food both in the fridge and in the freezer. But when I come to empty that Ziploc bag, I don't throw it away. I don't dispose of it. I wash it through thoroughly. And I have some wooden boards, what you call them, chopping boards. Where the glue hasn't kept them together, I end up with slivers of chopping boards. And instead of throwing them away, I keep them to either put under the ricer when that's cooking, or with the Ziplocs, once they're washed, I put the piece of the chopping board up inside it and leave it on the drainer. So the air's getting to the corners and it literally dries it out more efficiently and more quickly. So I can then put it back in the drawer and await the next use of it. So, with some Ziploc bags, I can use 5, 6, 7 times more. If it's had fish or raw meat in it, I dispose of it, and I don't wash it. And it's not very often. Sometimes I'll choose to use cling film or tin foil instead for those jobs, so it saves me the Ziploc bag. But yeah, always wash out the Ziploc bags and use them again. It saves an awful lot of money. Um, my second and Danny. Because I've been so frugal, that's why I look at secondhand first. I'll look at all the free sites on Facebook, um, Marketplace for what's free and available on there. I'm not looking for just any old thing, and I'm not bringing a load of tap back into my house just for the sake of it because someone's giving it away for free. But if it's a specific thing that I'm looking for, and if I can't find, I'm going to have to pay cash out for it, and I see that free, I'm going to take it regardless of it's secondhand, pre-used, pre-loved, however you want to term it. I'm going to take that instead and save that cash for something else. So, as I've mentioned frequently, bales of hay that I can use in the garden. These pajamas I've actually got on now were actually off a local lady who put them on the free site. Um, She'd wash them, everything was okay. I washed them in my own detergent when I got home. I prepared them and I'm more than happy with them, and these will keep me warm through the winter. And that's for personal on body use, and I'm quite happy with that. New to me. Obviously, I wouldn't do it with underwear. Obviously, anything like that, I wouldn't do it with. But I'm quite happy with pajamas. I'm quite happy with clothing. If it's something I like, it's new to me. As long as I've cleaned it and I've prepared it, I'm happy with it. Um, there's a whole number of things. In the past, we've had free sweets off there. You know, 3-piece sweets. We've had free different things. And I'll always check there before I'm looking for something. If I have to go to the shop and it's a bigger item and I'm looking for it, I won't be afraid to try to negotiate. Just as a rough example, Mr. Wallflowers was planning to laminate the living room floor, the lounge floor, about 18 months ago. And I had a specific colour in mind. I wanted the dark oak. Laminate, of course, not wood. We couldn't afford that. We couldn't stretch to that. So we went to B&Q. The laminate that I wanted wasn't stacked properly in the shop. So I went to the gentleman on that area, B&Q staff, and I said, can I offer you 50% off and I'll take all of that? He was a bit stroppy with me, and he wanted to give me a discount of a couple of pounds off each pack. And I wasn't happy with that. So I left him and I went to look for the store manager, and I told her it wasn't stacked properly on the shelves. Some of the packaging was open, and I would take it off her hands gladly. And if there was any damage, I'd accept that as a loss. So each pack of laminate floor, and I think there was about 11 or 12 packs, should have been 17.99 each, and I managed to get them a £5 a pack. Through my debating, she actually went that one step further and gave me an even lower price. So, if the answer is no at the end of the day and you don't get any further, you haven't lost anything. If you learn to negotiate, even in a shop like B&Q, or any shop, it's worth the off chance, and you might save yourself a dramatic amount of money. So I like to negotiate. Sorry, milk. Oh yeah, my son's corner shop where I took him a food parcel recently, and I'd forgot to put milk in as part of the food parcel package, which I normally put in, a 4 pinter. So I nipped to his local shop, and when I got to the counter with the 4 pints, the gentleman said to me, "That's £1.80, please." And I just looked at him and went, £1.80? Quite like shocked. And he looked at me and he was smiling. I must have caught him on a good day. He said, "What would you like to pay?" I said, "Well, I normally pay £1.30. He said, "I'll tell you what," he said, "I'll meet you halfway and only charge me £1.50. So a bit of humour, a bit of interaction, possible negotiation, whatever you can do. If you can strike up a conversation with a person, it could save you a lot of money. So the personal touch goes a long, long way. Um, One thought made me laugh, and I thought back to, I can't remember how old I would have been, but I was pretty young, and I remember in our house through the struggles. I'm 54, so I imagine I was 8 or younger. There was newspaper in the downstairs toilet in place of loo roll. Some might be disgusted. Some of you might remember these memories quite well. And my dad had painstakingly took time to actually cut squares out, and there was a pile of newspapers cut into squares. And it was the norm. If we had proper toilet roll, excuse me, it was a luxury, but it would be the norm to have newspaper. So we were quite fortunate. I only ever remember an inside toilet. For friends I speak to had outside toilets, and that was always the norm in the outside toilets anyway. So yeah, the Liverpool Echo was literally cut into squares and left in a stack, and that was your toilet roll. Now, I do understand in this day and age, or even then, we could have blockages in the toilet, etc. So that's why they were cut into squares, so it wasn't just a double page rammed. It might be uncomfortable, but if you go to the toilet and you haven't got anything at all, what are you going to do? It's okay if you're out foraging or you're outside walking and you can look for mulin and you can look for different things like that. But actually, within the home at crisis point, you know, I personally have a bee day. We purchased a bee day just over a year ago. We're a bit late in the day doing it. And yes, I still purchase toilet rolls. If there's any dirty habits, whatever, they're cleaned with the toilet roll. But I have a bee day to make sure and that I'm comfortable with it. Now, the hot water connection doesn't always work on it, so it can be a bit ouchy with the cold water on it. But I find it saves me an awful lot of money rather than using excess toilet roll that I can finish cleaning myself with the bidet. And I cut up some flannels and towels and made patches to dry myself. Now, yeah, some people might say that's too much information, Mary, and we're not really interested in that. But when it comes to being frugal, these things add up. And a bidet goes a long, long way to saving on toilet roll. Just another little story to throw in. I don't want to conjure up any disgusting images, but um, going back to basic things in the kitchen. So when we boil water in the kettle, there's a minimum amount of water that you can put in. And sometimes if you're in the kitchen in the daytime just for yourself and want a cup of tea, cup of coffee in my case, the minimum amount that you're boiling, you could virtually get 2 cups of tea out of, or just under 2 cups of tea. Take your cup of tea out of it and put the rest of the water. You've boiled it, you've paid for it, put it in a flask, screw the flask up, and if you're having a few throughout the day, that water will add up, will stay hot in the flask, and you can use that for your evening time water. So you're not reboiling the kettle in the evening, and you can have that throughout the evening. Also, it doesn't quite work with coffee, but with the tea bags again, a thing I remember from my home was the tea bag bowl. Mum and dad drank tea, and even if they used a pot, because the teapot was used then, it wasn't just tea bags in the cup, it was the teapot. And 2 tea bags would be placed in the pot, stewed, and then they would have their cups of tea. But when they'd finished and that water was cold, they'd empty that. If they hadn't finished it off, they'd empty that cold water out, and those tea bags would either be used again for the second lot and left in the pot, and then for the third one, they'd go in the bowl. If one was just having a cup of tea and they did do it in the cup, that tea bag went in the bowl. Now, it doesn't have to look ugly on the side. You can place a saucer over the top, and it's just a bowl with a saucer covered over on the drainer. And you can cover it with a plastic food lid. It doesn't have to be an eyesore, but you're going to get, and it's possible to get 2 to 3 cups of tea out of one tea bag. If you're frugal, you're going to reuse that and do that. We're coming to the stages now where we really do have to penny pinch to keep the heating on throughout the winter, enable us to buy the diesel, the petrol to get about and have access to the outside world and to do what we need to do, the food, absolutely everything what we need to do to pay the mortgage. So these frugal tips go a long way. So anyone who's saying, ooh, we're using tea bags, ooh, using newspaper and all that, I'd like to see you a couple of months on down the line when we've got no money for surplus things, and we have to eke out every last bit of life of anything that we're paying money for to make it worthwhile for us. And these tips do go a long way. They're nothing new under the sun. There is never anything new under the sun. All these things have existed and been done many times by other people, or we can bring them back in if need be. Yeah, just basics like leaving the dishes on the side or actually in the bowl and waiting for them to pile up till you actually have sufficient amount of dishes in the bowl. We've got into a pattern where we squeeze the washing up liquid into a cup and just wash an individual cup out as we go. So there's nothing ever on the side. My home isn't a show home. I do like to keep it clean. I do like it to be presentable, but no one's coming to inspect. No one's coming to say, "Oh, you've got two dishes on the side there. What's your problem? Can't you do the dishes?" It's not about that. We're not in competition with anyone. We're trying to eke out and use what we do need to use. So let the dishes pile up a little bit. Wash it when it's a full bowl of dishes that you can do. That washing up liquid is costing money. If you buy the cheap bottle, it's 60, 70, 80 pence for the cheap bottle. If you're buying fairy liquid and the likes, it's costing a hell of a lot more. So eke out what you're using, plus the hot water and the energy that you're paying for to heat the hot water up, plus your energy stood there doing it. It might be nice to heat your hands up in the hot water as frequently as you can, but you're paying through the nose to do that. Put them between your knees and sit there like that if you have to. When we're actually in the shop, um, the products that we're buying in the supermarkets, in the shops, wherever we go. And we know the prices have gone up, and we know a lot of the time the product is actually shrinking, so there's less product but a higher price. Or they just take a couple of grams out and think we don't notice. You have to start looking for what the weight on an item is and what the price is and compare it to whatever else is on the shelf. If you don't think it's sufficient and you know that you can find it elsewhere, go elsewhere and buy it. Twos and three pences, we don't think it's an awful lot. But across a monthly shop, across a yearly shop, twos and three pences on 50, 60 items adds up an awful lot. Now, when that increases to 20, 30, 40 pence and a pound, £2 or more, it's a fortune. It's an absolute fortune. So we have to watch the weightage as well as the price. Um, Being frugal, many years ago, I started having no spend days. That means you don't spend anything at all. You don't buy anything, whether it be on the internet, whether it be outside in the shops, anywhere. You don't spend. Um, Must be about 10 years ago, I started doing no spend days. I remember the first week starting it. I'd gone with a friend shopping in Wigan Town Centre, and she was buying all kinds of things. And I went, I enjoyed the day. I helped her carry her bags. We had a giggle and a laugh whilst we were shopping, but I didn't spend. And she asked me afterwards, should we go for a coffee? Which you normally do when you're out and about with your friend. You go for a coffee, maybe a slice of cake or whatever. I mean, back then we did. I just said to her, I'm on a no spend day. And she didn't know what that meant. She hadn't come across it before. So I explained what it was. I said, but what I will do, I said, when we come back home, I said, would you like to come to mine and have a cup of coffee there? I said, I've got some nice cakes in that I've baked. I said, and we can have a natter. So that's what we did. And now when I go to the food initiatives, I go twice a week with my friend Carol. And when lockdown started, my husband's wage was cut to shreds. He was basically near enough getting half his wage. We had to tighten our belts immensely, and frugality went through the roof. We really had to concentrate on what we were spending. So yes, I could still shop in the food initiatives because it was saving me a dramatic amount of money. But I couldn't have the lunch out, what we'd normally do on a Tuesday afternoon, because Carol and I will take turns a piece, and it'll cost us about £8, £8.50. We'll both have a cooked meal. I have a latte, she has a tea, and it's £8.50 for the two of us. So we take turns a piece each week, drinking each other. Um, Lockdown period, I refused to spend it, even in the initiative, because I really had to cut my cloth accordingly. So she'd come here and I'd make sandwiches, a bit of toast, a bit of cheese on toast, whatever I had in. and we'd have a hot drink here, and we'd spend time nattering and just enjoy each other's company. So you don't always have to pay out, but it's nice to spend time with your friends in your home and put the kettle on, much cheaper, and invite them back as a little thank you for going out for the day. That's the kind of thing I'd do. So no spend days were vital to me when money was short. Say a nursery rhyme cropped up into my head today as I was looking round. Um, I'm thinking about frugality. I noticed food in the fridge from yesterday that I now will incorporate into today's evening meal. So any extra food in the pan. Um, so, for instance, we had sausage, chips, and peas, and there were some sausages left, there was some chips left, and some peas left, and they were put in a bowl and put back in the fridge, bit of cling film over them and that. So somehow I want to incorporate that in today's evening meal. And when the boys were home, one of them would have them with it as an alternative and some extra chips on the side, and that'd be a full meal for them. Seeing as it's only me and Mr. Wallflowers now, we make a meal somehow. I haven't thought completely how we'd have it, but I'll reheat that. We'll have a couple of the chips each, a bit of the mushy peas each, and maybe half the sausage each with whatever. So I might put a pie with it. I might make some extra chips, and I'll just expand the meal and not waste those leftovers that went into the fridge. And the nursery rhyme that came into my head was peas pudding hot, peas pudding cold, peas pudding in the pot 9 days old. So in the olden days when they had the open cast fire, they'd have the big pot in front of the fire and they'd be making stews, pea soup, peas pudding hot, and basically they wouldn't empty or throw away the bottom of remaining. They'd add to it and add to it and add to it and expand the meal, and that's what that nursery rhyme is about. Peas pudding hot, pudding cold, peas pudding in the pot 9 days old. You know, we don't leave things in the fridge 9 days, obviously, but I incorporate the leftovers from the night before in the next day's evening meal. If there's no leftovers, then obviously it's a full new meal. But if I make a meal where there's 6 portions, a shepherd's pie, for instance, and the 6 portions, Mr. Wallflowers and I will have it for 2 days on the trot, nice bit of red cabbage or something on the side of it. But on the third day, maybe we don't fancy it. Maybe we've got an appointment or we're out the home or whatever. So that will stay in the fridge for a couple of days and I'll make another meal. And then in a couple of days, that'll come back out and release it. Or it could be frozen on day one and come out at another point. The food wastage we have to really concentrate on now, and we have to make sure that we're not wasting anything. We've took gas or electricity to cook it. We've paid expensively for the ingredients and the time prepared in the meal. So we have to make sure we minimise any wastage at all. I do. I'm talking to myself as well. Now Christmas is coming up, and we may receive gifts from family and friends if we're lucky. Um, Keep the wrapping paper. I've always kept the wrapping paper for years, and I've always kept the bags. Now, whether they be wine bags or they'll have something in. Mr. Wallflowers and I make champagne from the spring onwards, and we make it from the elderflower. Excuse me, that we go foraging for. Um, and we have fun making it. It takes us a while to make it. You have to bake the bottles every day, and you have to make sure that you store it correctly. Once that champagne's made, might make 50 bottles at a time. So these wine bags, when it comes to Christmas time, we can put a bottle of champagne in that bottle and give a bottle of champagne as a gift. Seems quite fancy, but it's cost us next to nothing to make it, prepare it, and have that gift ready to give to a family member or a friend. And we haven't paid out for the packaging because we've kept that from the previous year. We've then got it for birthday gifts or whatever. I mean, you can even put a couple of jars of jam in one of them wine gift bags or your sweet collection, your hot chocolate, your marshmallows, etc., some drinking chocolate. You can put it all together. Those wine bags can have multiple uses. So any freebies like that, don't throw them away. Keep them and see how you can reuse it. The rough notes and they're all over the place, but these were just the kind of things I was spotting today. One main factor, and I didn't even think about it till Mr. Wolfhouse mentions it. We actually don't go to hairdressers. We haven't gone to hairdressers for quite a long time now. I bought a clipper set. Mr. Wallflowers and I shave his hair. He likes a crew cut style, quite short, and I shave his hair. Now, just by me doing that, I'm saving, well, it was £10 ago. It would cost £10 a while ago for Mr. Wallflowers to have his hair shaved in a barber shop. So I do that, and we save that once every 2 to 3 months, which is quite a lot over the year. Now, my hair, Mr. Wallflowers dyes for me. So I buy a box from Poundland. If I was to go to the hairdressers, it would cost me £60 in my local hairdressers to have my roots done. It cost me £1 to buy a colour from Poundland. I've paid the £8, the £12 for the other ones from Superdrug and the likes, and I've done a comparison test, and there's no difference. So I'm quite happy with the Poundland hair dye, and I've stocked a few of them up in my pantry box, so I'll have them for later on if and when needed. But yeah, Mr. Wallflowers does that. Now, if I do that every 3 to 4 months, it's 3, 4 times a year of a £60 saving if I was to able to afford that in the first place. But it's £240 a year just for my hair. So it's an awful lot of money to save if you can provide for each other for such things like your hairdo. And we like it, don't we? We're quite happy with doing each other's hair. Just let me see if there's anything else I haven't covered. Oh, one thing I do on a regular basis is I look for a larger piece of cheese. I don't buy grated cheese. I don't buy different coloured shapes or whatever. I understand people buy Lunchables for children, etc., for the pack lunches. I buy an extra large piece of cheese. I think it cost me £4.20 this week. I've seen them from £3.80 to £4.20. I cut it in half. I grate that half. I put it in the Ziploc bag and put it in the fridge. And it's easier for me baking with, doing a sandwich with, whatever topping for any meals I need. And the other half is placed in the freezer till that's gone. And I still try and eke that out as long as I possibly can. But yeah, that takes us a lot further with the cheese because cheese cost is going through the roof as well. Just trying to think of all the little intricacies that we just take for granted on a day-to-day basis. Tell me what you think of some of the things I've said. I know everybody won't agree and everybody lives a different lifestyle, and some people are quite fortunate, they won't have any difficulties, they'll be able to glide through. Not many of us. I think the bulk of us are struggling now, and we're looking for any ideas to prick our conscience. Maybe not as severe as some of the things I've mentioned today, but anything that makes life easier. If you can help me and contribute and tell me other things that you're doing, that would be great. Nice talking to you today. See you soon.